Ready for this? We're going to take one quote and just like totally unpack it. See what kind of wisdom we can squeeze out of this thing.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, and don't worry, this isn't like a religious thing or anything.
Right.
We're just going to use this quote as a jumping off point to explore some ideas about, living a good life, universal values kind of stuff,
I like it.
Okay, so ready. The quote is from the Baha'i writings, but like I said, the ideas are pretty universal.
Okay.
Here it is, ready? Be generous in prosperity and thankful in adversity. Be worthy of the trust of thy neighbor, and look upon him with a bright and friendly face. Be a treasure to the poor, and admonisher to the rich, an answerer of the cry of the needy, a preserver of the sanctity of thy pledge. Be fair in thy judgment, and guarded in thy speech. Be unjust to no man, and show all meekness to all men. Be as a lamp unto them that walk in darkness, a joy to the sorrowful, a sea for the thirsty, a haven for the distressed, an upholder and defender of the victim of oppression.
Wow, that's quite a mouthful.
I know, right? So much packed into that one quote. I mean, you just skim it and you see generous, thankful, trust, treasure, admonisher, sanctuary. Like, wow. What jumps out at you?
I think, what's really interesting to me is how it kind of blends like inner qualities with outward actions.
Yeah.
It's not just about like feeling grateful, but it's how you express that gratitude through generosity or, how you treat other people.
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty insightful, how it addresses both prosperity and adversity, because like life has its ups and downs, right?
Yeah.
But this quote suggests that we can navigate all of that with a sense of, grace, and maybe even find opportunities for growth in those tough times.
Yeah, I love that. For me, I was really struck by that line, be a treasure to the poor and admonisher to the rich. I don't know, it feels almost like a paradox, right? What's it mean to admonish the rich, and how does that like fit in with the Baha'i view of wealth and stuff?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think it highlights the Baha'i focus on social justice and, the idea that wealth comes with responsibility. So admonisher in this context, it doesn't mean like scolding or anything harsh. It's more like gently reminding people who have abundance, that they have a responsibility to use it for the betterment of society. Think of like modern philanthropists who use their wealth to tackle, poverty or inequality or even environmental issues. That's kind of like being a treasure to the poor,
Yeah.
Using what you have responsibly to help others.
That makes a lot of sense. But how do you balance like admonishing the rich with this whole emphasis on kindness? Could it come across as kind of judgmental?
That's a great question. And I think it really gets at the heart of the Baha'i principle of detachment. Now, this doesn't mean rejecting wealth altogether. It's more about not being like attached to it, So if your focus is on serving humanity and making the world a better place, then the act of admonishing becomes more about like love and encouragement, guiding people to use their resources in a way that aligns with their spiritual principles.
I like that. It's almost like, encouraging people to think bigger. And it connects, beautifully with that next part, the be thankful in adversity. I mean, it's not about like forcing happiness when things are tough, right?
No, not at all. It's about a much deeper resilience, I think. The Baha'i teachings emphasize seeing challenges as opportunities for spiritual growth. It's about drawing closer to a higher power, relying on that. And it's really rooted in the belief that tests and difficulties, they refine our souls. It's not about toxic positivity. It's about actively seeking growth in the midst of those challenges.
Yeah, it's funny because I actually went through a really tough job loss a few years back.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was devastating,
Yeah.
But looking back, I can honestly say that it really pushed me to reevaluate my priorities. And it led me to a career path that's honestly much more fulfilling. So I can totally relate to that idea of like finding gratitude, even in adversity.
That's a perfect example, I think, of how adversity can be a catalyst for growth.
Oh.
It's not about denying the difficulty, but it's about choosing to focus on the potential for learning and transformation.
Absolutely. Another thing that really stood out to me in this quote was all that, the vivid imagery, the lamp, joy, sea, haven. It's not just about being a decent person. It's like actively radiating something positive outwards.
Absolutely. Those metaphors paint such a powerful picture, don't they? It's someone who's like actively engaged in service and compassion. Imagine being a source of comfort or inspiration for someone who's struggling, Even a simple act of kindness, listening to someone, a smile, those things can be so profound.
it reminds me of this idea I heard once. It was, be the person you needed when you were younger. Like actively embodying that kind of support and encouragement that maybe you lacked.
That's beautiful, and so much in line with the spirit of this quote, I think. It's about recognizing the interconnectedness of humanity, which is, such a core Baha'i principle. It emphasizes that we're not like isolated individuals, but we're part of this larger whole, and our actions impact everyone around us.
So how does this all, tie into the bigger picture of the Baha'i faith?
Right.
What's the context here?
Well, this quote really embodies some core Baha'i teachings. The oneness of humanity, for example. The idea that we're all interconnected, regardless of our background. The importance of spiritual development, constantly striving to refine our character and grow closer to the divine. And the idea that each of us has a role to play in building a better world. It's about a life of service, guided by, justice, kindness, unity.
We've explored so much in just one quote. Generosity, gratitude, resilience, treating others kindly, all woven together with the Baha'i perspective.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Now, here's a final thought for you to, ponder this week. If you had to pick one phrase from this quote to really focus on, which would it be and why? Let that guide your actions and interactions this week to see what kind of ripples you create. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep striving to live a life, full of purpose.
Great advice.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.